So we're going to get started here, and I don't know if Mary's gone through the ground rules, but if you can silence your phones and things like that, I'll answer questions, but we'll do that at the end. So today's talk, even though it's February, we moved it back a month because of the snow, is New Year, New You. New Year, New You, I kind of played off the fact that obviously it's a new year, but New Year, New You is really based on a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at your life and expectations for your life. Certainly we're going to talk about health, but we're going to build on that and get to a bigger picture, which is your life. So that's what our goal is tonight. One of the reasons why I do these talks, it's part of our mission. For those of you who, by the way, I have not met yet, my name is Dr. Albanese, and I'd like to welcome you all. Everyone else, I'd like to welcome you back. Our mission is to help as many families as possible, create healthy lifestyles, and reach optimal health through chiropractic. This is an extension of our mission. This is one way that we can help you create a new reality for your life. Because most people are kind of on a, what do they call that, those moving sidewalk thingies. They hop on and they just go. They're not deciding to move faster or slower. They just move at the pace they're on because that's what is happening below them. And that's the way we go through our lives. We just kind of happen to be here and we get caught up. And we start developing paradigms and understandings of things based on other people's views. What we're told in the media, what we hear about, what we've been raised understanding, and all of a sudden that becomes our reality. Tonight we're going to take a little journey to create a new reality, or certainly open you up to the expectation of creating your new reality. So we're going to talk about health, and we're going to start off talking about the principles and the laws that govern health. There are laws, there are universal laws that govern everything. The earth rotates around the sun. Sun rises in the east, sets in the west. These are universal truths, universal laws. They're undisputable. Same thing with us. All human life has laws that govern it. And we're going to talk about health and uncover some of these principles, some of these laws. Very important to understand, there's going to be pretty heavy things in the beginning. I want you to really think about what we're talking about. Because for a lot of people, they're not even aware of what health is, let alone there are principles that create a foundation for upon which health is built. Chiropractic is built on 33 principles. All these principles are these universal laws. So we're going to start out by talking about health. Health for a lot of people is how they look, how they feel on the outside. But health is more than that. It's not just the surface, it's what's underneath, how our body functions. So health, if we want to define it, is optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the lack of symptoms and disease. So just because we don't have symptoms and disease doesn't necessarily mean we're healthy. Doesn't necessarily mean you're sick either. But we all know people that have suffered from heart disease or cancer, and they look good, felt good. But underneath the surface, obviously their body wasn't producing healthy cells and tissues and creating life, not in a healthy manner. So health is about how you function. Very important to understand. Now, the flip side to that is being sick. Sickness, disease. I like to hyphenate it, dis-ease within the body, a state of lack of ease, right? Sickness. Now, we see sickness and disease as something we diagnose, ear infections or allergies, asthma, colitis, fibromyalgia, migraine headaches. And then we name it, we categorize it, and what do? We treat it as if it was a separate entity in and of itself, when in reality, those conditions don't even exist. They don't even exist. The only way they exist is when someone does not exhibit optimal health. I'll give you an example. My hand is fully illuminated by the light above, right? When I move my hand underneath a sheet of paper, it becomes dark. But that darkness did not exist by itself. It only exists in the absence of light. If you define darkness, you can't define darkness without light. It doesn't exist, except in the absence of light. Sickness is the same way. See, we see sickness as something we get, something we catch, something that's passed down, genetically, my mom, my dad, my this, my that. Well, we've never isolated a high blood pressure gene, a cholesterol gene, never isolated a hyperactivity gene, right? But your lifestyle can allow a gene to be expressed. So if you have genetic predisposition for something and you create the right environment, that gene will be expressed. But it's not genetic passive. About 3 to 5% of genetic problems are really, or of conditions are genetic. But here's the thing. A healthy person, a person who is vibrantly healthy, expressing optimal health, doesn't have ear infections, asthma, allergies, stomach problems, fibromyalgia, migraines. Doesn't exist in that body. Here's the thing. If my hand is health, or the light is health, it's illuminating my hand, and my hand all of a sudden has something interfering with it, or not my hand, but health, now my hand is in a state of sickness or disease, only because there's a lack of health. See, when health is here, right, full expression of health, the body functions well. But as soon as something interferes with the expression of health, now we have less than optimal health. We may have a symptom, we may have a condition we diagnose, and then we treat that. But what have we done to remove the interference to allow the expression of health to increase? Nothing. We can change numbers, right? We can regulate, we can change sugar levels, we can change blood pressure. But if we increased our health? No, because what was causing that is still left uncorrected. The body is not going to just dysregulate itself, regulate itself improperly just because of I'm this age, I'm that old, I have this job, I have this stress. It doesn't work like that. Our natural state is health. So blood pressure goes up, cholesterol gets out of balance, things like this happen. Why? Because the body is responding to something that's causing this response. It is responding appropriately and necessarily in that circumstance. But then once that stress is relieved, the body should go back to a normal and optimal state of health. But we live in chronic stress, and we don't look at what is interfering with the expression of health because we have the thought process that we have to treat something. Therefore, we live in an unhealthy body for years and years and years. Talk to someone who has a chronic condition. They don't just have one, they have 2 and 3 over the years. Because we don't look at enhancing health, we look at the treatment of symptoms and disease. Very important to understand that concept. Health and sickness. Sickness is just a lack of health. We improve health, give the body what it needs, remove any interference. Now the body can express better health. Second principle I want to talk about, well, I'm going to group a couple of them together. The body is self-healing and self-regulating. And there is an innate intelligence that runs this whole body. There's nothing the body can't heal from. Body is self-healing. That's the way we're designed. That's the way we're made. We hear this like spontaneous remission. Things like, if you approach health properly and not treatment of symptoms, if you approach health properly and give the body what it needs, and we do it in a timely manner, you can't wait 50 years and say, okay, my body's going to heal. We may run out of time where this invasive thing, virus, or becomes more invasive than our body can overcome. But the reality is the body is self-healing. It's self-regulating. Heart beats, lungs breathe, digest food. We don't have to think about it. It all takes place without us having to consciously decide. The body regulates itself. The immune system kicks into high gear when it's confronted with a virus or bacteria, some type of antigen. It's self-regulating. There's also an innate intelligence within our body that runs our entire body. The difference between me and, say, a corpse, same body parts, same organs, same muscles, same body fluids, everything's the same. The difference is the innate intelligence within this body is not being expressed. The innate intelligence within me is being expressed. Innate intelligence, life force, it's in every living thing. It's what causes the leaves to fall off a tree in the fall and regrow in the spring. It's what brings about life. Then innate intelligence is manifested through our nervous system. Nerve impulse, first sign of life. Stopping nerve impulse, last part of life. You can replace this, you can start it again, you can't. Once it stops, it stops. But that's where that life force is manifest from. Your nervous system controls everything, right? That's that life impulse. That's why you're adjusted. You know, some people obviously come here and say, hey, I have this obstacle, I want you to help me overcome. But the reality is, I'm not treating a pain, a symptom, an ear infection, a hyperactivity, a reflux. My job is to see where is there interference in the nervous system. And if we can align the spine, we can remove interference, health potential increases. That's why you're adjusted. But since we go back to the same type of stressful lives, sitting all day, stress, and this, well, our body will recreate a pattern. So we readjust you, bring your body back into balance, increase the expression of life. Now, most of you didn't come here saying, hey, you know what, I thought about chiropractic and I want to increase the innate intelligence and the expression of health within my body. Can I sign up and get adjusted today? No. But that's the reality of why I adjust you. And that's why I can't take credit when someone says, oh, you really helped me. Actually, you helped yourself. I removed the interference. Your body's what does the healing. You know, acknowledge how intelligent you are. You're a genius. You're a genius. Think of all the functions that take place in your body every second. You're doing that. That intelligence within your body is coordinating those functions. We could take two cells, put them together, in 9 months have a baby. We call that a miracle. That's the intelligence being expressed. So the body is self-healing, self-regulating, and there's an intelligence that coordinates all function. Next principle, vitalism and mechanism. A mechanistic standpoint on health is very systematic. Vitalism is about growth, life, the perpetual increase in the expression of life. That's Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine. When you read at night, I'm sure you come across these things, right? Hippocrates, the father of medicine. What he did was talk about life, vitalistic approach to life. He talks about the spine, the requisite of disease for it controls function, right? Vitalism is what chiropractic is based on. It's what the healing arts that look at the body as a whole are based on. A mechanistic viewpoint of health is medicine, right? We break things down into symptoms. Now we need this. We need this. It's necessary. If you have a crisis, you want to go to the person in charge of the system that takes care of the heart if you have a heart attack, right? If you have a bleeding ulcer, you want to go to the person in charge of the gastrointestinal tract. But here's the problem. Once that crisis is averted, now do you go back to the specialist to enhance your overall health? No, they focus on a system. And that system doesn't talk to this system. And this system doesn't talk to this system. Our medical system is very segmented. And it's necessary and appropriate in times of crisis, but not the enhancement of health. I always give the example of your house is on fire. Your house is on fire, who are you going to call? You're going to call the fire department. Fire department's going to come with their bag of tools, take out the axe, take out the hose, and take care of this crisis. Put the fire out. Now, once the fire is out, how are you going to rebuild your house? How are you going to then maintain your house for the rest of your life? You're not going to call the fire department back because they're going to come with an axe and a hose. They don't have the right tools. You're going to go to a carpenter who's going to open up his toolbox with a different set of tools to rebuild that house, to allow that house to function properly, if you will. See, we need medicine and drugs to avert a crisis, but we can't regain health with that paradigm, with that model of thinking. We have to look elsewhere for something to increase health and function and propel us to a long, healthy life. See, that's the difference between vitalism and a mechanistic standpoint of health, viewpoint. That's very important to understand because we try to apply that philosophy to health and that doesn't work. It's a different paradigm. You know, what is the result of trying to apply a mechanistic philosophy to health? What we have, health crisis. Now, we view a health crisis, at least in Northern Virginia and Washington, as deductibles and copays and Medicare and this and that. That's not our health crisis. Our health crisis is we don't understand health. We don't understand health. We haven't learned health. We can't teach health. Therefore, what happens? The #1 cause of death in the United States are chronic conditions. Chronic conditions. 50% of our adult population suffers from one or more chronic conditions. 25% of our adult population suffers from 2 or more chronic conditions. That's 75% of our adult population. There's something wrong with how we're going about health. When you look at chronic conditions, heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, obesity, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association, these are the most costly and the most common chronic conditions. But get this, they are the most preventable. Preventable. How? Lifestyle. We'll talk about that last. Based on our lifestyle. Obesity now, well, I should say, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and strokes are considered downward stream conditions of obesity. In other words, obesity happens and these things follow. Diabetes alone is part of what makes up 40% of the deaths in the United States. And it's preventable. It's preventable. Doesn't matter where you are, at 2 years old, 20 years old, 50 years old, you can change from this point forward if you understand health and these concepts. The scary part of that equation, do you know what segment of our society is now seeing the greatest increase in chronic conditions? Our children. Which to me is a bizarre sentence, talking about chronic conditions and children together. How does that happen where our children are now recognized as the most unhealthy part of our population? Our children are not expected to live as long as we do. We are wild animals. Believe it or not, like I have 3 kids, I can verify it, right? We are wild animals. We are the only wild animal that chooses to live in captivity by choice. The other wild animals that live in captivity are by our choice, and you hear what happens, right? Wild animals in a circus, they end up stampeding people. They end up having emotional problems and diseases just like we do. Why? Because they're living like us. Why is it we are the sickest animal in the animal species? How is it our kids are some of the most unhealthy part of our population? Our children now, in 1996 or 1994, 12% of our children had chronic disease. In 2006, almost 30% of our children suffer from at least one chronic condition. Asthma, obesity, behavioral problems, diabetes. So much so that we had to change the definition of diabetes, or the naming of diabetes. Childhood onset diabetes. We had to change the name of the condition. Why don't we figure out why the condition's happening and solve that instead of renaming it and then treat it? Now, why is it our children are so sick? Why is it when I was growing up, half the table ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch? Now, if my kids go to the cafeteria with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, they literally have to sit at a special table because there are so many kids that are allergic to peanut butter. How is it that our food is making us sick? How is it that we are allergic to food? Food should just be something we eat. We don't think about it. But that's how our kids get sick. Our world has changed. I want to share something. I don't like to read a lot to you now. I like to read. But this is by the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the American Medical Association, Dr. Catherine DeAngelis. A chronic condition in a child will become a chronic condition in an adult. We just know that. So, 65-year-old person has a chronic condition. They may live with that condition, what, 10, maybe 15 years? But now a child, say 10 years old, how long are they going to live with that condition? 50 years? 60 years, if they even last that long? Because now they're not going to last that long. Their body's going to wear out faster. But it's going to cost more. It's going to cause more disability. That person's not going to be as functional within our society as they had the opportunity to be. How did they get like that? I want to run through some things with you here real quick. This is not a philosophical discussion or a discussion on is this necessary or not necessary, do you do this or not? I want to show you what's changed, okay? What kids today are influenced by compared to kids 30, 40, 50 years ago, us. In 1976, 1 in 30 kids had learning disabilities. 2013, it's 1 in 6. 1 in 6. In 1980, 1 in 27 kids had asthma. Today, it's 1 in 9. In 1990, 1 in 550 kids had autism. In 2013, it's 1 in 50. 1970s, 5% of our kids were obese. Today, it's 1 in 3. Are kids different? They're still born the same way. Well, birth process is a little different, but overall, they're conceived the same way, as far as I know, right? They develop the same way. They're born the same way. So why is this? Why does this happen? I'm going to give you some things to just think about. 1953, the CDC recommended 4 vaccines, 16 doses by the time the child was 6. 1983, 7 vaccines, 23 doses. 2013, 14 vaccines, 49 doses. By the time that child is 18, they've had 16 vaccines, 69 doses. You know anything about GMO foods and the stuff they put in GMO foods? That's not even half of what they put in the vaccines. In 1983, the CDC directed doctors to give no more than 4 vaccines at one time. In 2013, 8 or more are what's recommended, or allowed, I should say. 8 or more. Do you think that can change a child? Number 1 medication given to children are antibiotics. According to the CDC's National Center for Infectious Diseases, the director, James Hughes, he says that antibiotics are commonly used in office practice to treat colds and upper respiratory tract infections, ear infections, chronic ear infections, bronchitis, sore throat, sinus, acne, for which they are essentially useless. Because antibiotics are designed for bacterial infections, but we give these for viral infections. To understand what type of virus you have or bacteria infection you have to do a blood test. You do a blood test, you determine is it gram-positive or gram-negative. Then you determine what antibiotic is appropriate for that bacterial infection. For a viral infection, they're useless. So what's the result of that? The CDC study found that most frequently prescribed antibiotic is azithromycin, which is commonly used to treat bronchitis and ear infections, but that's a problem. Bronchitis and ear infections are most commonly caused by viruses, and antibiotics like azithromycin don't work against viruses. Goes on to say, chances of resistance increase with antibiotics. There are infections out there that have become almost impossible to treat. We really are on the verge of going down a path where there is nothing that works. You hear this, superbugs, superviruses. But what is some of the repercussions of a child taking so many antibiotics? This is a study of 12,000 youngsters, and they found that those who were given antibiotics early on were almost 3 times as likely to develop asthma. Another study found that multiple exposure to antibiotics increased the risk even more, by 16% for every additional course of antibiotics. Asthma, the result of over antibiotics? That's one of the top chronic conditions kids suffer from. Do they really have asthma? Or have they developed some type of dis-ease within the body because of what was done early on? Just makes you question things, right? How do we take care of ourselves? What have we done for our kids that's so different than what we did? These are some of the things. We hear things enough, we act on it, and then we start to live through that paradigm. Most of what we do is influenced by some other means. You know, by the age of 18, we see 20,000 hours of drug commercials. What does that really mean? You take a child between 0 and 18 years old, sit that child in front of a TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 20,000 hours, that equates to 2.283 years. 2.283 years, that's all they watch. Do you think that's going to influence what they do, their actions? That's why drug companies spend more money on marketing than they do research and development of drugs. Spend more money on marketing than they do research and development on drugs. Do you know there's only 2 countries in the world that allow direct marketing of drugs to consumers? The United States and New Zealand. The United States ranks 37th in the world, and health New Zealand is 41st. How's that working for us? Not so good. There's a reason for that, though. I'll give you one example. Celandine went from sales of $34 million a year. That's a lot of money in 1985. But then when it became marketed to consumers, directly to consumers, $34 million went up to $800 million. Now, you know what the sad part is? It was later recalled because it caused heart arrhythmias. How many drugs do you hear that? Different side effects, different problems, and we recall it after we've marketed it to you. Why? We spend more money on marketing than research and development. We have no idea how a drug, you have no idea how a drug is going to interact in your body, and let alone taking multiple drugs. 50% of the adult population takes 1 or more medications. 20% take 5 or more. You have no idea how they're going to interact. Evidence backs the idea. Advertising has raised the prescription rate of prescriptions by over 30%. Right? So we have to think differently, don't we? We have to gain an understanding of health. We have to understand these principles that comprise health, these laws, these universal laws that are present in all of us, all living things. We have to understand that and understand how the body works. Then you can start to move towards health. But until you do that, your body will accumulate more damaged cells and tissues, will move away from health. So in this country, we have a crisis, but there are places all around the world today that people are regularly living well over 100. What do we do when people live over 100 here? You know what we do? Well, Willard Scott just retired, but he would put him on the back of a Smucker's can, wouldn't he? It's like, holy cow, there's one person made it. Let's put him on the back of jelly, right? But there are countries that regularly have people living well into their hundreds. So what are they doing? We can learn from that, right? Success leaves clues. So let's learn from it. We're wild animals, right? I told you, we are wild animals. Wild animals live 10 times their age of maturity. So chimpanzees, age of maturity is 5. Their life expectancy is somewhere around 50 years old. We're the only animal in the world that lives 5 times at the age of maturity. 77.6 years old. Now, you know what's scary? Who do you see to improve your health? Your doctor? You know what the average lifespan of a doctor is in the United States? 58 years old, 20 years younger than the you're better off going to your next door neighbor and asking them what to do. Right? 58 years old. But here's the thing. We're going to visit some places that people live regularly, 110, 20 years old, well over 100 years. There are people that live in the mountains of southeast Russia. This is known as the longevity capital of the world. Abkhazia is where they live. Dr. Leaf, a professor at Harvard University, undertook a study through National Geographic. And he found that the number of centurions, people living past 100 in this area, were remarkable. He found that they eat fresh fruit and vegetables. They picked them almost daily and ate them almost immediately. They eat nuts, seeds, grains, whole grains, organic whole grains, right? They live in a mountainous region, so they're constantly walking up and down the mountains. They don't have a car, bus, or train, so they have to walk everywhere. You want to go to your neighbor, you walk. You want to go to the store to eat, go hunt, walk, run, right? That's all they do. People of age are revered for their knowledge and wisdom. Revered for their knowledge and wisdom. We have a little different philosophy in the United States, don't we? Go to this home, stay there, don't come out, we'll visit you. Right? People are revered. In southern Ecuador, in an elevated valley, which is somewhat inaccessible by the rest of the world, which is probably why they're healthy. Vilcabamba is the name. People live highly active lives. They hike regularly. They work and cultivate the land. By the way, everybody works and cultivates the land. You're only 100? Come on, put your boots on, let's go. Right? Everybody's involved in this. They eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds. They eat them raw. Some minimum amount of grains. They have a strong sense of community. They have a strong sense of connection with the earth. See, they realize when they take this apple off the tree, it doesn't come from the tree. It comes from the soil. They are also connected to the soil. They have a strong sense of spirituality. They have respect for their elders. Average age or lifespan, 110. That means some people live way past 110, some people not 110. Average life, 110. We're at 77. We have work to do. Right? The Hunza tribe in the mountains of Pakistan, also isolated. It's kind of a theme there, right? Maybe move out of your development. British physician, Sir Robert McCarson, studied these people for 7 years. This is what he found. He found these people, quote, were unsurpassed in their perfection of physique and in the freedom of disease and degeneration. In the 7 years he was there, there's a medical term for this, asthmatic dyspnea. What he saw was never a loss of strength, energy, or weakness in these people. Never saw a case of it. Never saw a case of gastric or duodenal ulcers. Never saw a case of appendicitis, colitis, cancer, heart disease. Never saw one in 7 years. People die of trauma, infection, just like hunter-gatherers 40,000 years ago, just like the American Indians before they met Whitey. We gave them white foods, white sugar, white flour. They lived just like this, right? They'd sit around a campfire, listen to the elders speak, right? Then we said, hey, you know what? That's not really cutting. Why don't you live like us? Go ahead and live in this fenced-in area, eat our food. And now there's some of the sickest people in our culture, right? These people, the Hunza tribe, they eat diets of fresh food. 80% is eaten raw, seeds, nuts, squash. They eat small amounts of meat. They have a strong sense of community. Land of Immortals. How's that sound? Right? Like a scientific novel. Land of Immortals, Okinawa. Okinawa, Japan, the island of Japan. Right? Island of Immortals. They have the highest number of centurions in the world. We can learn from them. They meat and tremendous amount of fish, raw or steamed, vast amounts of fruit and vegetables. They are physically active. They regularly practice lifestyle principles that decrease stress. Now, they don't even call it stress. They call it betterment of life. Things like taekwondo, or not taekwondo, but tai chi, right? Things of this nature. Things that cause the body to be in balance with itself. They have a strong sense of community. The elders play an important role in the community. Now watch this. During the 20th century, 100,000 Okinawans migrated to Brazil. Brazil was already westernized. 100,000. Watch what happens. Their life expectancy decreased 17.9 years in one generation. In one generation, they messed the whole thing up. But here's what I gained from that. If we live like those people, one generation, maybe we can add 17 years. How's that? In one generation, maybe for our generation, we can add 5, 10 years of quality life. Obesity, cardiovascular disease, premature deaths reached record highs in these people that migrated to Brazil. But see, what was common with all these people? Well, anybody ever hear we need to take more vitamin D? This is like a new thing, right? Vitamin D. Everybody's pushing vitamin D. You ever hear this? These people don't have to take vitamin D. Why? They live outside. Where do we live? Inside. Inside. Tony Robbins, I love this. Went to a seminar. He said it best. We sleep on a box. We get out of the box. We go to another box to wake up. Then we go downstairs. We eat our breakfast out of a box. Then we get in a box, right? And we drive We get out of that box, go into another box. That takes us up to the floor we work on. Then we sit in a box all day. We eat a box lunch. And then we go home in a box. We live in a box. The only way you can do something different, have a different result, is step out of the box. Think outside the box. Live outside the box. Live like these people. You don't need to buy vitamin D. Go outside. Stand underneath the sun for like 15 minutes. Vitamin D, save your money. Right? These people, sunshine, water, air, rest, exercise, live food, and a sense of purpose. See, they don't work in their community to have the big hut, to have the cool skinny jeans, right? Because they don't have it. Everybody dresses the same. They all shop at the same place. They get it off an animal, right? They shop at the same stores. It's the pasture over there. They do everything for the betterment of the community, something bigger than themselves. But we live in this box, and we think really small. Get involved in something bigger than you. Be connected to something bigger than you. Right? They have service as part of their lifestyle. What else do they do? Their diet. Pretty common theme. Fresh fruits and vegetables, seeds, nuts. They don't have preservatives, additives, GMO foods. They don't have coloring agents. If it's blue, it's blue. If it's red, it's red. You don't change the color. Right? Everything is organic. Everything is natural. The grass is green because it's green, not because we put something on it to make it greener. They live accordance with our what our genes are programmed to have and need. That's how they live. They move every day. That's how they get places. They move. We need to move every day. They exercise because that's part of their life. We exercise because it's January 1st and they got a special at the gym. And then we stop moving around the end of February. But we still pay for it until December. For the 2 years our contract is up. Right? They move every day. Because that's how they move. That's how they have to get around. Right? Their thought process is one that is bigger than themselves. Right? They're bigger than themselves. They don't think sad thoughts, depressing thoughts. They don't have depression. You try to explain to someone, it's like trying to explain to a kid. My son asked me one day, Dad, what's stress? I said, great question, don't worry about it. Right? These people don't have words for that. Depression, stress, anxiety. All they know is happiness. That's it. They get stressed out if a buffalo, runs by them and they don't get it. Right? But they just look at and they revere when they eat. They're thankful for the food. Right? We're thankful when our food is on sale. They're thankful for food. So what do we learn from them? It's pretty simple. Universal laws. Right? Universal laws tell us what we need to live. We need air, we need food, we need water, we need nerve impulse. If you don't have any of those, you can't live. If you don't have one of them, you can't live for very long. Right? These are essential for life. Essential, not options. Essential. So let's apply them to health. We need proper nutrition. We need nutrition that nourishes the body. We need life. So you pick an apple off a tree. What happens to it when you set it on your table for like a week or two? It turns brown and rots, right? Why? Because it's not connected to its life source. It's living just like us. The innate intelligence isn't flowing through the apple. You take it off the connection it has to its source. What happens? It rots and dies. That's the food you want to eat because it has life in it. You break down the apple, that's where you get your heart from, your stomach, your liver, your kidneys. We rebuild cells and tissues all the time. We replace them. That's what you want to replace them with. Or you can get a Twinkie and replace it with that. Right? That's the food we should be eating. Healthy, vibrant, live food. All different colors on your plate. That's what we should eat. And you can't overeat it. You can't eat too much, but try to overeat salad. One bowl, you're pretty much done. One apple, 2 apples at the most, you're done. Why? Your body has all it needs of that. Right? Live foods. That's what we should eat. Should be hydrating. Drinking fresh water. Alkaline foods. We should be moving. Right? We need to exercise. We need to move. People ask me, what should I do? How should I do it? Just move. I call it HIIT TTI. High intensity training involving time, tempo, intensity. That's different for everyone. Your time tempo intensity might be a quick, brisk walk. For someone else, it might be doing, sprints or things like this. But we want to move, we want to get our heart rate up. We want to stress our body to the degree that it responds by getting stronger, right? And we need to do this every day. I always listen to people and say, well, you should exercise about every other day, every third day, give your body a chance to rest. Well, just don't do the same exercise. But we should be moving every day. If these people didn't move every day, they wouldn't eat, right? Moving every day. Look at a kid. Do they need rest? No, we say we need a day to rest because we don't feel like exercising, right? Tell a kid, hey, you're doing too much activity. Hold off on Saturday. What? Right? Move every day. That's how we're designed. That's why we're made up of all these joints. If we weren't made to move, we'd be a big stick, right? But we're meant to move. This is one of the essentials. Healthy mindset, where we talked about these communities and what they exhibit in terms of their mindset, their spirituality, their connection to other people. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. If you had a conversation with your friends about the 60,000 thoughts you talk to yourself about, how many people want to meet you and talk to you? Not many. Maybe once, but that's it. A done deal. I'm not going back to that person. They're getting me depressed. 60,000 thoughts a day. The problem is we have the same thoughts over and over again. 40% of the things happen in the past, they can't be changed. 30% of things never happen. 12% are illogical. There's only about 6% of the things we think about that are actually going to happen. So if you have a good mindset, you're going to influence those in a positive way. 60,000 thoughts. How much time do we place between our thoughts? I think it was interesting. Wayne Dyer talks about the steel bars on a cage to keep a lion in, right? If I had bars on that cage that were like 6 inches thick, steel, would you be afraid to walk around that cage if there's a lion in it? 6-inch steel bars. Would that worry you to walk around? Oh, how far apart are the bars?
Yeah.
See, quality of our question determines the quality of our answers, right? He always said, increase the time between your thoughts. Increase the time between your thoughts. Take some time to be silent. Take 5 minutes, go in a room, leave your cell phone, don't tell the kids where you are, sit in a room, go in your closet, 5 minutes, sit there in the dark, and just try not to think of anything. Try to be silent. Okay, I gotta go to the store, we need, oh, shh, gonna be quiet. Okay, the kids have the game on Saturday, oh, shh, gonna be quiet. It's hard. It's hard, right? 5 minutes. Create silence for yourself. Stop the thoughts. Now I took a nap today, what, 4 minutes? 4 minutes before the talk I did this afternoon, right? 4 minutes, I woke up, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to roll. That's it. Do we ever take time to slow our body down? When you take a nap or just meditate or rest, your heart rate decreases. Your breathing slows down, digestion slows down. Every function in your body slows down, and your brain rests. You ever wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, there's the answer to that problem. Why? Because you finally shut it off. It happens around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Right? Because your brain shuts off and your mind can finally express itself. So take time to just rest. Don't push through it. Walk away from it and then come back to it. Right? That's the fourth essential. The last one is your nervous system, your brain. Right? That's why I adjust you. That's why we advocate having your kids checked. Because if you can remove interference from your nervous system early on, my kids were adjusted 45 minutes old. If we can remove interference from their nervous system at an early age, the expression of life increases, the expression of health increases. You may not have symptoms. You may say, I don't have any back pain. Right? How do you know? Because you don't have a symptom? That's not health. Health is function, not symptom. And symptoms may be good. You got a fever, throwing up, that's good. Body regulating itself. That's why we advocate having the families checked. That's why we want you under care for the rest of your life. I might not be your chiropractor for the rest of your life. I might not be the right chiropractor for you. But chiropractic is right for everyone because it's a universal law and truth that your nervous system has to express itself to its fullest potential in order for you to express your fullest potential. Just like you need to eat, move, think well, and rest and sleep. It's essential for life. If it stops, there's no life. So better function well to have optimal health. That's why you're adjusted. Watch this. This study on 2,818 chiropractic patients reported significant positive changes in their physical state, mental, emotional state, stress evaluation, life enjoyment, and overall quality of life. The benefits were seen as early as 1 to 3 months of care, and the study was 3 years. And those people during the 3 years never reached a clinical maximum benefit. Why? Your body's always reproducing itself. So you're either reproducing yourself in a healthy way, producing new healthy cells and tissues, or you're reproducing yourself with sick cells and tissues. That's why chiropractic never has a maximum benefit. Study revealed chiropractic patients exceeded national norms in areas of general health, vitality, social function, and mental health. Not back pain, health. That's why you leave here and you say, yeah, I feel different. I mean, I feel different. I get adjusted every week. My family gets adjusted. My family in New Jersey gets adjusted. Why? They don't all have back pain. Because your nervous system controls your body. It's where that innate intelligence is expressed through. So let's make sure it doesn't have interference, right? These are the 5 essentials of health. There's only 5 things you need to do. You don't even need to make a list. 5 things, they're easy. You need to eat well, you need to move, think well, have your nervous system checked, and after all that, rest and sleep for a little bit. That's it. That's the magic equation. This magic equation, all these places and all the other ones I studied, yeah, there was an ice sculptor who was interviewed once, and they said, boy, how do you make these beautiful ice sculptures? How do you make these beautiful angels? It must be so difficult. He said, actually, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy because I picture that ice sculpture in my mind, and then I just chip away at the ice that's not part of the sculpture, and I end up with the sculpture. And that's kind of what I did here. I studied I studied so much stuff, and I tried to chip it away to give you some bullet points. Things that you can put into practice. But it's really not that hard. You read over and over again, all these cultures, all these societies recognized as the healthiest. They're all doing the same thing. It's not that difficult. You want to be healthy, study health. You want to be happy, study people who are happy. So that's what I did. That's what they do. That's what you need to do. That's it. Done. Right? Simple. It is. It's that simple. Don't watch TV. Don't talk to your neighbors unless they're happy. Don't read the paper. Don't watch reality TV. Well, you might feel good about yourself when you watch those people. But life is that easy. Remember, step outside the box sometime. Step outside the box. Look at things differently. You'll laugh. I come in the reception room sometime, and I don't even know if they know this, but I'll stand on a chair, and I'll just get a different perspective. I'll sit on the floor and get a different perspective because I want to see what the kids are seeing. I want to see what someone who's taller than me is seeing. I want to get a different perspective, see things different. Wow, you know what? I never noticed that. We need to clean that. Never saw the top of that before. You got to do that with your life. Get a different perspective of your life because that brings about greater possibility. I started a little bit late, but I'm ending 5 minutes early because I want to honor your time. If you are new and have never been to a chiropractor, you can let Mary know and we will check you and your family at no charge because that's part of our mission. We want to help families realize their true health potential, create healthy lifestyles, and reach optimal health through chiropractic. We do programs like this every 2 to 3 months, depending on the snow. So look for the next program and tell other people. You know, this will be on our website in about a week. Tell people, hey, learn about this stuff. Tell them about chiropractic. Most people think it's back and neck pain, right? It's about your health. So if you want to get checked, your family wants to be checked, you talk to Mary, right? There's no obligation. It's not care. It's just get checked. There's no charge, right? You want your families to get checked. If they haven't gotten checked, have them come in. You know, the next 3 weeks, we're going to check families, $25 for the entire rest of your family. We donate that to somewhere, to a place where there's, you know, at-risk kids and families, right? So we help your family and we help another family. That's just part of our mission. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. If you have questions, just let me know. And if you don't, you can leave. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Be well.